everyone. Welcome back to the 1 hour series. I hope everybody's having a great evening because tonight, for the first time, we have a talent manager on our stream. The talent manager's name is Lisa Calli. I would like to introduce Lisa right now so she can talk a little bit more about what she does so you guys can ask her questions. And as always, put down the questions in comments as soon as you can, just so we make sure to answer as many of them as we can. Now, here is Lisa.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. So I am a talent manager. I have my own business. It's called Calli Company Entertainment. And I work in all areas, theatrical, TV film, commercials, voiceovers, a little bit of everything, social media posts. I primarily work with kids and young adults, but I do have other clients. I used to have more adults, and I actually had a child, and he started working in the field, and I found it was really fun to work with kids. And I put at least kids in 45 Broadway shows, maybe more. I don't know. It's been quite a long time. I've been in business since 1999, so it's been a long time. As far as I'm always looking, so I have a website, callicompany.com, and you're free to send me submissions. And first question, I guess.
Well, thank you for that. We felt it was important for everybody to know what Lisa does so you guys knew what kinds of questions to ask because I know these streams are only an hour long, unfortunately. So we want to make sure the questions are very targeted so the guests can answer to the best of their ability. So Lisa, thank you once again for the introduction. And I just want to say hello to Dan and Katrina are saying hello, and hello to everybody else who's watching. So happy to have you here. Now, Lisa, I know everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but most people know what agents do, what talent agents do. But sometimes not everybody knows what managers do or what the difference between agents and managers is. Could you talk a little bit more about what a manager's job is and what the difference is maybe between managers and agents?
Sure. So agents are secure work and negotiate. A manager is more likely to do a little more hands-on development, whether it be coordinating coaches, maybe just coordinating union, anything from tutors, pretty much every aspect that an agent may be too busy to work with to do during the work. Agents might have a larger roster, and they look to managers to be able to bring on more clients. So if they find a manager they like, those managers will bring them clients. But anymore especially during COVID, and depending on the size of the agency, boutique agency will do a lot more along the same lines as a manager. And a larger agency may have more clients and not enough time. But basically guidance with everything, every aspect, everything. Not necessarily from what you should wear to an audition, but looking at tapes, giving good quality advice, discussing, the dedication to the text and storytelling versus ego-based auditioning, wanting something versus dedication to the task of telling the story, which is what gets you the job. So there's many, many aspects of what a manager might do that an agent may not have time to do.
All right, so I'm guessing talent managers, well, obviously the word managers in there, you guys manage careers, right? So you would guide an actor for example, well, I guess I'll give you an example and you can let me know if that's something you would do. So for example, an actor is thinking to audition for 2 different shows, but the shows are conflicting, and let's say the actor gets both roles or gets cast in both, and that actor has to pick one or the other, and they will then come to you and ask, oh, which do you think would be better for my career? This ensemble role on Broadway or this lead role in this smaller regional theater? And you would advise them. Is that something you would do?
Absolutely. Usually we're going to advise them before the audition because we're probably going to either have secured the audition or work with the agent to get the audition.
Oh, yeah.
So, and many people want to do lead roles. It's just whether it's feasible that they can leave and do a regional job or do an ensemble job on Broadway. If they've been in the ensemble many times, we're going to suggest to break out and do some leads, because we really want to guide a career has longevity and that people are happy with. They want to be happy. We want people to be happy. And there is definitely a cap on how many ensemble roles you should do. And so, we would definitely guide them that way.
Oh, I didn't know that about the cap. Could you talk more about that? Just so, because I know a lot of people would want to know.
It just depends on what you want to do. I have friends and clients who have done a lot of ensemble roles, and you become the gypsy.
And then you're the gypsy for the rest of your life.
And I mean that might be wonderful, but I think you're going to long to do a little more. And I'm not saying you should turn down an ensemble job, but luckily Actors Equity has that built in, unless you sign a writer, that if you are ensemble or understudy and you haven't signed a writer, you can automatically break your contract and move into a lead role if one is offered. And you can audition for them without, causing harm. If you sign a writer, it's usually a year writer and you're not going anywhere. So you can't, once you're in a job and you've signed a contract with a writer and it's an ensemble job, you pretty much have to stay in until the duration of that writer is over. And that's, for example, as a manager, I've learned that from working with my agents. But I could also call Equity directly and find out anything that I need to do, which I just called SAG just a minute ago, because one of my clients who's on a voiceover series, animated series, received a hi, you can, you're eligible to join SAG more than 30 days ago. So now he is a must join and he's working tomorrow. So we had to call Los Angeles and organize that. And he's now able to work tomorrow. So there's all kinds of things. Sometimes an agent's not going to be available after hours. More available to casting directors than clients, but managers are usually always going to be available. Again, there's a lot of great boutique agencies where they are going to be available. And they work almost like a hybrid of a manager agent. So.
Now, I heard that you first get an agent, then you get a manager. But it sounds to me like a manager is kind of like your family, more like guiding you, versus an agent is just like, let's get those jobs. And if you don't get it, we're on to the next actor kind of thing, unless it's, a boutique agency, like you said.
Right.
So when should one think about getting a manager? Can one get a manager at the beginning of their career, or should you be, experienced and have some things on your resume already? What are your suggestions?
You're more likely to get a manager early on than an agent, because an agent is really going to want to see a few credits. Depends on your age. I mean, all agencies, managers, and casting are open to seeing young people and not expect them to have a large resume. And if they need to, if they have a role for a child, they're going to see children without any, hopefully a little bit of something, at least training. But yeah, early in a career, it's good to look for a manager. And a manager probably has already a good relationship with several agencies, and they will be able to place you easier than sometimes yourself. It just depends on whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, or what kind of agency you're looking for. You know, whether it be commercials a little more open, whether it be print, they're always open. And also, when you become very busy, you really need a manager, because then you're one of my clients is super busy, and there's just you know, everybody's trying to get to them. And so I find that I get a lot of direct emails because I'm listed on their IMDb, and I'm probably easier to get to than the agency, because the agency just won't return any of them unless it's, you know, sometimes it'll be a writer saying, I have a script, or whatever it might be. So the in between, I would say early development is good to have a manager. And then of course, when you really get going and you're very busy, you need someone to kind of, guide the plane, bring the plane in, because I mean, you're just too swamped, and your agency is as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Now, if you have both an agent and a manager, um, what are your thoughts on, well, I don't want to say managing both the manager and the agent, but I guess working with both. And what if sometimes, say, your agent wants you to do one thing, your manager wants you to do another thing? What should actors do in that case?
Well, a good team is always good. It's always the right thing to have. Acting in general is a team sport. You are part of a bigger, group, and you're only as good really sometimes as your cast. And so if you have a team, they can confer on ideas, and sometimes the agent will push me. Um, there's like, for example, one of my clients is at Williamstown right now, and it's a very low paying non-equity contract, but he just graduated, and a big director reached out and said, we really love to have him. And Williamstown is coveted. You want to be able to go there, and you want, it's like people need to know you, and it's a perfect showcase to be at Williamstown. It's not pleasant to be in a non-equity contract and not have the same, it feels like you're slighted a little with housing and money, but you're still in the mix, and you're still present, you're still working with a team that needs to know who you are. And there might be jobs like that where the agents want more for the client financially, but it's a stepping stone that will be lucrative later. And most of the agents understand that, but then we might like, there'll be self tapes that kind of overlap, and the agency wants the best for their client as well, but sometimes it takes a little bit of patience for the client to put themselves in a position where they're going to get a better offer, or a better job offer, just in the door. So we could clash that way. Maybe there's a non-union tour. Like there was a time where I would never do non-union anything. But sometimes, especially with youth, they need experience. And if it's something little, they need to know how to do this. And sometimes, the best way to learn how to act is to act. So, or to sing, that as a singer, you have to sing to be a good singer. So it's not just about coaching. It becomes like, what are you going to do in the situation where you have to perform, and you're moving from coaching to performance. So that's really important.
All right, thank you. As you were finishing up, I was reading comments, and Irina actually just asked a question that was also next on my list, and a bunch of questions, people submitted the same question, of course. who couldn't watch live right now. So I'll ask the question all actors want answered. How does one find a talent manager? Irina said all agents have websites, but managers don't. Or I don't know. I know you have a website, but how does one even go about finding and submitting to talent managers?
Right. Well, that is a good question. That kind of stumps me a bit because I'm a manager. I only know other managers from doing industry panels. So sometimes, like, there's incredible, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do Broadway and you don't have no other castmates or friends who might have a manager and that you can inquire about, because word of mouth is a great way. If you have friends that are working a lot, get in contact with their manager, as well as their agent, if you could. But sometimes there's really good industry panels. And like, for example, if you want to do Broadway, there's a coaching kind of, I think it's like, I would call it coaching, where they do, well, it's called Broadway Artists Alliance. And if you join, they have summer sessions and you join, it's like coaching basically. There's going to be several agents and managers on the panels. And sometimes you could just go to websites and look and see who's on these panels, which you might then be able to look them up. For me, I feel like I have so many kids or so many people on Broadway. If I were someone who wanted to be on Broadway, I'd look in Playbill and I'd read people's bios and then who are they with? Or you can go to IMDb, but you have to have a pro account to find out who's agent, who's agent and managers. IMDb Pro is a great way to find out agents and managers. I think Broadway, there's a Broadway, well, I would say Playbill, reading bios too is a cool way. But you know, any great group, anywhere there's great training where they have industry panels, you could go to their website and see who's on these panels. And that might be another good way to find some. There used to be something called Ross Reports. I don't know if it's still around. Backstage, any manager that asks you for money or agency is not an appropriate, legitimate person. No. So don't feel like you have to pay someone. However, if you pay to do a coaching session, and that's another way too. Sometimes coaches have regular people they work with that send them clients, and your coach could maybe recommend a few people.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the don't go with agencies and managers that ask for money.
Yeah.
Because that's, I know way too many people. Well, I don't personally know them, but I've seen too many posts online that, oh my God, my child was, or like I was selected by this agency and they said they could make me a star. And all I had to do was just pay like $800 for their photographer or something. And I was like, nah, it's a scam. And sometimes those people go turn around, they're like, no, it's not a scam. Like they said all their clients are getting great work. I'm like, okay, well, if you want to pay $800, you go by all means. But
that's a definite no.
Yeah.
Not ever pay anyone for representation unless, well, in the case, no, not even a lawyer. So if you say you audition and you book a series regular and your agent and manager reaches out and says, wants a good entertainment lawyer because maybe there's sequels, maybe there's, merchandising, stuff like that. You don't even pay them until you actually book it. So if you don't book it, nobody gets paid. And that's the other thing is really, you need a good team that believes in you enough to like really represent you, because nobody gets paid unless they book something. And that includes agents and managers and lawyers.
Yeah. So if you have an agent or manager asking you for money up front, that means that's how they get paid, not via booking work.
Exactly.
Now, since we're talking about pay, what are the industry standards or like ranges that agents and managers usually take from booking? So what are the percentages, just so people know if they find a manager or an agent and they're like, oh, we take 70% of what you get, just so they know what to expect, kind of thing.
Okay, so industry standard for agents is 10%. I've never heard of anyone taking more other than like a sports agent. A sports agent could take up to like 30%, but those are for athletes. A manager could take either 15 or 10. For me, when I'm working, if I'm doing all the work as a loan manager and building a career, which is really, nothing. I mean, you're really working for zero. I will take 15%, but very rarely. Most of the time I'm 10% because, for example, if you have an agent and manager that's 20% out, but then there's taxes, which could be 30%. And if you're working with a minor, you're adding another 15% that's going to go into a trust, which leaves their parent very little to operate on. So sometimes I book kids from out of town on Broadway. And while it might seem like a high salary, a monthly salary and weekly salary, by the time you get here and you pay everyone out and you pay the government and you put the money in, aside, you can't even really afford to live here. So for me, I think it's really inappropriate to take 15%. I have one manager. Well, we're actually, one of my clients is working with a split between a New York agent and an LA agent. And we all decided to take 7%, including the agency, which is not typically standard because, SAG and AFTRA, I mean, those are union contracts, agency union contracts. So they brought their fee down. But if you have a New York and an LA agent, they have to split 10%. So rather than do that, we all agreed to take 7% and the client's paying 21%, which is highly unusual. But usually it's 20%.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think that's some important information for everybody to know because, sometimes they're like, oh, this agent is not, or a manager is not taking money up front, but they're going to be charging, like 60% or something.
Oh,
and people don't know any better. They're like, okay, well, they're not taking money up front. It must be legit.
It's definitely not legitimate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then to, I guess, add on to getting a talent manager. How does one submit to a talent manager if you don't have, because I know on your website you have like an outline of what people need to submit.
Right.
So what if you somehow got a hold of a manager's email or maybe you got recommended somehow, but you have no idea what to submit? Is it just headshot, resume, demo reel, or what? How do you suggest people submit?
Yeah, I mean, I think headshot, resume, if it's a minor, we need obviously their parent. No minors we don't deal with minors directly. Date of birth, if you're under 18, that's an obligation for us to submit. And we'll get into actors access later, but if you're a minor, you have to have a date of birth and a parent contact on there. A reel is great, a little bit about yourself, like maybe a little, not really a mission statement, but this is, what I love to do, hope to do. Yeah, and definitely a reel if you have one. If you don't have one, put a little something together, pull a monologue, or if you sing, whatever you do, show us basically. But yeah, headshot, resume, demo reel if you have it, singing if you have it, dance if you have it, any of those. And who referred you?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah. Speaking of referrals, I think we talked about this before the stream, so nobody else heard this, but you mentioned that having someone refer you is probably the best way to get a manager and
Yeah.
or an agent, right? Versus just kind of cold submitting.
Yes, exactly. And especially a coach
Mhm.
or like something like Broadway Artists Alliance, where we go get to view people and we know there's a high standard to actually be in Broadway Artists Alliance. There's if you're in New York and you're under 18, Kristen Caesar has a company called Kids Theater, KIDZ, and she has a very high standard and she's a very good teacher. She teaches how to love storytelling, and she usually has an incredible group of kids always. So I mean, if you have friends that are working, and you can, if they'll share the information, that's a great way. Otherwise, find a good company that you can take classes and they'll share information. And they usually also call us and say, hey, I have had like some of the best clients I've ever had have come from coaches that I work with. And so find yourself a great coach and you'll find a good group of people, and you'll probably get a referral that way as well.
I mean,
And sometimes
uh,
just have it on your resume. Like if you send me a resume with people I know on it, I'm definitely gonna reach out to you.
of course, yeah. And it's once you know one person, you kind of know everybody because everybody knows everybody in the industry, right? So you get a manager, they suggest coaches for you. You get a coach, they suggest managers
Yeah.
for you. So it's great.
And it's amazing now on social media, and also, I mean, like, just online, Google. I mean, when I first started, our breakdowns were hand delivered. So it was a lot more secretive and less access
Yeah.
than now. So
All right, since you just said the word access and talked about actors access earlier, I had this question on my list as well, but a couple of people actually just sent me messages asking about websites to be in or websites to be on as an actor. Obviously, actors access, but could
right.
you like maybe I don't know list websites or in order of
Sure.
importance and
I think in order of importance is actors access, because that connects to our professional breakdowns, which is breakdown services / breakdown express. So no matter what, if I take you on as a client, I have to have access. You have to have an actor's access that I could plug into to be able to submit you. Also, with actors access, you could be connected to smaller jobs that maybe I don't even have access to because they are maybe too small to be in the professional breakdowns. That would get you the kind of maybe a little real, maybe experience. And those are maybe very low paying jobs that your agent or manager aren't going to be able to submit on, and sometimes not even in our breakdowns. Like we won't know about them. Also, obviously, backstage we'll have jobs that we won't know about that are maybe too small, where they're not going to reach out to professional reps. So you'll have a smaller pool to audition in. And then online, the equity boards, even if you're not equity, there's like, you could look at theaters that you like learning institutes, like Paper Mill has a certain amount of non-equity people they need in their, they can't, not everybody is equity in their shows. And maybe you can get some EMC points. There's extra work that maybe will get you on a set if you just want to see what that feels like. Grant Whiffley, I wouldn't suggest that any long term, but if you're like transitioning maybe from theater to film TV and you want to see what it feels like to be on a set, or sometimes even maybe you want to learn a little bit more of what happens behind the scenes or watch a director's work, you can look into that. But it wouldn't be my first choice. But I mean, I had kids that went in as extras this past year and got to work with Lin-Manuel Miranda, like on 2 different movies. And they were like, I mean, to watch him work is pretty exciting. So there's all kinds of things, but definitely Actors Access. Oh, there's Casting Networks. Casting Networks does more of the commercial and also films now. Lots of films, in fact. So you can open a Casting Networks account. You can, if you're in LA, it's LA Casting, and then Actors Access and Backstage, I think, are the best. Because you don't want to, you don't have to sign up. These are things that I think with Backstage you do have to pay, but it's they are free. They have free versions. Actors Access has a free account. If you want to, you have to pay to put extra headshots up or your reel, but it's basically a free account. So, and they have a paid account too, but you don't really need that if you have a rep.
Yeah. Yeah, that way your rep can submit you to all the stuff that you need to pay for.
Right, and not everything's going to be in there, but a lot of good
course,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned IMBD Pro earlier. How important is it for actors to be on IMBD?
If you have some film TV, aside from like background or anything, it's really important because a lot of people find you that way. I mean, if you have, I mean, it needs to be a buildup of work, though. I mean, if a director knows about you from maybe a guest star something, or like maybe you did a pilot that maybe you only went so far, they're going to look for you, and they're going to look for your reps if they know of you and want to know who you're with. And sometimes I just get like inquiries because they like the client, some of my clients, and I'll just get, well, we're fans of so and so, and we'd love to like have you look at our. I get so many things from IMDb, especially from other countries. It's interesting. So a lot of people do access it. But yeah, if you have a body of work, you should definitely have an IMDb Pro account. I mean, IMDb account Pro if you want to find out who's working with who, like their representation.
Yeah, I also think you need a pro account to edit your information or like to add headshots or something.
Yeah. I mean, your information will go up by the production company, but if you want to edit it, yeah, you absolutely have to have your own account.
All right. Now, you mentioned doing different types of work, non-union, union. What are your thoughts on if someone's just getting started in the industry and they, let's say, want to do film, and they do student films, or if they do theater and they want to do theater and they do community theater to build up their resume? Do you think putting, if all your credits are community theater and student films, is that a bad thing? Or should you still put all of those credits on your, say, Actors Access, or only pick the best ones?
Well, you're building, you're building your resume. You need to start somewhere. And I'm a firm believer of it doesn't matter where you do it. It just matters that you do it and that you love it. And I mean, once you start to build a more professional resume of paid jobs, those would probably be better to, you could edit off, because casting directors don't want to look at a cluttered resume. They want to look at a few points and get an idea of who and what this person is capable of, and who, what they've done. And so, yeah, I mean, if you've done a role in a community theater that represents you, they're looking to see, okay, this person, has done this role, is familiar with this. They get a sense of your range, everything just by the role. So if you have more professional work, as you build professional work, you definitely want to take off some of the smaller jobs. If you have a great piece of footage from a student film, keep it on your reel. It doesn't matter. It's just all about the job and how well you, is this a good clip that will show who I am and show my range. If you're young and you're aging out from some of the work you have, take it off. Like, if you're a kid, if you have stuff from 10 years ago on your reel, take it off. Or, your resume, take it off. Because you want to look, the resume is your calling card, and it's not only representing what you've done, but what you hope and want to. Like what you've geared yourself towards. And so you want to keep those things on that, you'd like, say you did a show in a community theater and you want to do it on Broadway, or like, it's something that's come back to Broadway and you've done their show. It's good to have it on your resume, because they want to know that you could sing it, or that you've done it, or that you're familiar with it. Of course, in your audition though, it's got to be like very fresh, and you're doing it for the first time, because then you're the storyteller. So.
All right. Well, thank you. And I guess it's important also in general, for your footage and any demo stuff that you do to be, I don't want to say high. Well, I guess high quality is probably a good word, right? You don't want a student film that is like grainy with terrible sound and doesn't show you off that well, because it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, you'd like to have it kind of be uniform. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge production, but it has to be, you have to be able to see it.
Yeah. And I feel like talent managers would be good to help you choose the clips to use, right?
Yeah. Well, I've definitely edited a lot of reels to try to find the best piece and try to build the story with the reel, even, so that they could watch the reel and kind of get a sense of who you are and what you'd like to do.
Yeah. And also I heard that these days I think on Actors Access, they have the option to do different clips. So instead of, I don't know if it's more an LA thing. So instead of just having a reel, you would have clips. For example, I play, I don't know, a quirky girlfriend, or the crazy brother, and you have like a 10-second clip of you doing that type of a role. Is that something?
You could do that here in New York as well. And I just would be careful not to overload it, because they're not going to watch them all. You really just want your best work out. And even now, I definitely have some clients where I kind of want to go in and like groom the clips that are up, especially with youth, because they grow so exponentially. And that's another thing too with casting, is they'll see you and you've grown so much, and you sometimes have to convince your way back in, or we as reps have to convince back in. I've had casting say send them to the open call, even though they know them, and had to fight for them. They've changed so much, they've grown so much. So if you have clips on there that maybe best don't represent your growth, don't just have them up there to have them up there. Really have the best of the best that you can present, and the most current.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess look what you look like right now and play what you could potentially play now. Right?
Yeah, I mean, for age-wise, it doesn't matter if it's something, if you're an adult and you have some great piece of work that's 10 years old, that's fine, as long as it was great, as long as it represents you in a way that they can watch it and say, wow, this person really is a good storyteller, really knows what they're doing. But yeah, if you're 9 in one clip and now you're 19 take the 9 off.
Yeah, maybe if you're under 20, you gotta update those clips more often.
You can leave it on your resume if you originated a role, I should say. But you want to take some of those clips off. And they can find them online anyway. So.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Now we've had more people join us, so hello to everybody who joined, and I see your messages and comments. I'm only unfortunately able to read the questions because we only have, well, about 20 minutes left. So if anybody has any more questions, make sure to put them down in comments. Once again, yes, you can private message this page and I will most likely also see your questions. But if you can, please put them in public comments so I can see them right away. I know not everybody's comfortable to putting stuff publicly, so it's okay if you message me, but once again, it's preferred if you could put them down in comments. And speaking of comments, we have a question from Jaylan. Jaylan's asking, how often do agents reach out to schools or companies for new actors? Well, agents and managers, if you need maybe it's like a specific actor or just want to see more people.
I'm gonna say it's more likely that casting might. I mean, I do. And sometimes agents, if they're building their roster, most of the time agents are too slammed working and, you know, filtering their roster, because the first place actors tend to go to is to an agent. So agents are busy. But casting directors, I've had plenty of casting directors reach out to me and say, where do you think I could find this, you know, with the specific breakdown? And I will refer them to coaches, schools, companies, and they do a lot of digging on their own, and they also look on YouTube and social media, especially when they're looking for something really specific. So it's more likely that casting will directly call a school.
All right. As you were answering that question, we got a couple more messages and comments.
Scared about the comment.
Madeline and David, and actually a few other people were asking, when are you ready for a talent manager? How do you know you're ready?
Again, early on, when you're really starting out, it's good to have a manager guide you and maybe introduce you to casting and also find agencies. But also when you're really busy, like one of my clients is slammed, and then you start to really put the whole team together, including more than one agent's. Like, well, if you're really big, you're only going to have one agency. They're not going to share you. But if you are starting out, you might, you might have a commercial agent and a theatrical agent, or maybe you'll just start out and have a commercial agent and a manager who will groom you and, prepare you for bigger roles. And again, it's not just them grooming you, it's the actual process of acting. So like if you do a few commercials or some smaller jobs, you're going to be more ready, even though it's a different kind of format. You're going to be more ready for a bigger role because you'll have been on sets and kind of have the idea of what the whole process is. And when you're really, really busy, you're going to have a manager, you're definitely going to have a lawyer, you're going to have an agent, a manager, a lawyer, a publicist, and maybe a business manager, depending on how much money you're making.
Yeah, so you have like a whole team behind you.
Right. You're making a lot of money, and of course you're going to have an accountant.
Yeah, the team to manage the money.
Right. So.
All right. How? I don't want to say how often, but what role do you play in casting? I guess other than submitting people, do you work directly with casting directors or theaters sometimes? Do you have the ability to just come to a casting director and be like, oh, I have this really great actor. I know you guys are casting this show, and this kid would be great for this show. Is that something you?
I do that a lot often.
Okay, so your managers have connections with casting directors then?
Yeah, most managers, not all managers. I would assume most managers. I definitely do. And it depends. I mean, and sometimes I kind of push favors a little. If they are coming to me for one person, I say, hey, I have somebody that I want you to meet. we all try to set up generals, agents, and managers. And sometimes I'll just see a breakdown and I'll literally just call the casting director, like immediately. If I can find their email, I'll email them first, and then I'll follow up with a call. But sometimes I'll see a breakdown and I'll just know it's what my client is going to book. Just will know. It's so dead on. And I'll cold call anyone. And I totally lean on the agents I work with too. I mean, one particular agent I work with gives me emails of, I'll call and ask, hey, I have someone that I don't have with you that I want to get in. Can you share the email? And then I'll go that route. And I'll get an assistant that'll give me an audition for that. So, yeah, it's really like we all have, with the contracts being a little lower than they used to because of, because of streaming and because of cable, we all need a few more clients than we needed in the past. So we all need to kind of lean on each other. And it is, again, a team sport. We are only as good as the people we represent, and we all want to help each other. I mean, a lot of the agents I work with will help me regardless of whether I have a particular client with them or not, and casting as well. And I'll help casting. If casting reaches out and says, this is what I'm looking for, I'll say, I don't have that, but I know someone that does, and I'll connect them. So it's really connecting people.
Yeah. And like we said earlier, everybody knows everybody in the industry. So
yeah, very small world.
Yeah.
And it's a very small, and it makes New York a very small town, and Los Angeles too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And also the person who was the assistant is now the agent or the casting director.
Yeah.
That happens considerably.
Exactly. Yeah. You never know where people might end up in a couple of years, right?
No. And you should be kind to everyone, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
Not for that reason, but just in general, it's kind of business where you can get a reputation if you're not a nice person.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all heard of stories where people tolerate, like, superstars just because they make money and everybody loves them. But we also heard stories of superstars being fired when people are like, enough is enough. So it doesn't matter how big you are, if you're not nice to work with, then.
Yeah. Humankind first.
Oh yeah. Now we had a few other questions, and Irina, I see your question. I'll ask it next. I first want to ask a follow-up question that I think Jennifer asked about getting a manager. So let's say as a manager, when you get submissions from people, how do you decide who to take on? What is a good submission to you? How can one stand out?
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on the rep that you're sending to, what their roster already is, because we're dedicated to the clients we have. And, there's only so many people we can take on. But definitely, if there's a reel, I look for confidence and storytelling. If there's just a headshot and resume, of course, a good picture that feels like it represents you well, and there's confidence in your picture. Just kind of understanding. Sometimes you could look at a picture and just tell this person really knows themselves. Things like that. Really, really try to keep as authentic, like as you can be with who you are, and don't think of what I want to see as much as who you are and what you want to show. And somehow that translates. I don't know, the camera is really good at that, of kind of detecting the BS, I think. And of course, if you have a body of work, we want to know, a good, nice, clean, easy to read resume. and know there's something on there if you have special skills, if you can play an instrument, and you're, be honest about it. Don't say you're a pianist and you've only, played piano for 3 months. This isn't much. I don't want to see something like burp on command. I don't want to see any of that kind of stuff. I really just want to see legitimate, I want to look at something, a picture and a resume, and see someone that knows themselves and is getting to know themselves. Does that make sense? Like they don't know where they're going to end up, but they're in search of a discovery of who they are and what they have to offer.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you're not the first one on these streams to say, just be yourself. And that's what everybody wants to see. Literally every single person who had anything to do with casting said, be yourself. That was the tip everybody gave.
Right. Unapologetically yourself. Yeah. But I mean, like, for youth, they don't know who they are yet. I sometimes I don't know who I am yet. Like I'm still learning, but somebody who wants to learn and is, I think, kind of patient and realistic with themselves. I don't know how it comes through, but that's confidence, direction. Those kinds of things are, because you don't know who you are yet, especially if you're young, but maybe what you want to gear towards and what you're serious about. So
yeah, so pretty much don't try to act the way you think the casting people want you to act, kind of thing.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, don't try to guess what they want to see.
Your calling card, it's who you are. It's not who we want to see. And I mean, you could be incredible, and I might have 2 people that you're going to conflict with, and I can't bring you on anyway. Yeah. But I might refer you to someone. But it has to be what you're about, and not what you think we want you to be about.
Exactly. All right, so we have people watching from all over the world, actually.
Wow.
Mostly from U.S., of course, because LA, Chicago, New York are the most popular places people watch from. Sometimes from Canada as well. But I mentioned this because we have a question from somebody from a European country. I don't know which country, but Irina is asking, what would you recommend for the actors based in Europe who don't have the green card or work permit in the US? Is there any hope for those actors to work in the US?
It's tough. I'm not going to say no, there's no hope, but it's hard. Let's see. Okay, so I had a Canadian client who, sometimes the thing about the different countries, not necessarily all of Europe, but like say the UK and Canada, they're going to have their own equity. They're going to have their own Screen Actors Guild, or, I forget what Canada's called. And they don't share. They don't share with you. Very rarely. They share with stars. And, the reason those unions are in places to protect their clients, their actors. So, there's a lot of British actors working here right now. Don't know how they get away with it, but they do. I mean, they're not, the unions are not supposed to mix and match so much. So I think that if you have, it's very hard to get a Category 1 work permit in this country. It's nearly impossible. And I did once get one, and I literally had, it was somebody who was here on a student visa in school, and they auditioned a lot, and and came close to many roles. And I had a lot of producers sign letters for them, like Spike Lee's company, to get them this work permit. And then, of course, they had to pay a lawyer, and we still didn't get them a work permit. So sometimes too, if you're really have a specific skill or you're very unique, you can audition and they will sponsor you. There's been a few I could think offhand. One of my manager friends had someone playing, it was for Jungle Book, Little Boy for Jungle Book did the original reading or something, and Disney sponsored him. There are a few incidents like that, but it's really difficult. So hard to gauge that one. If you're not in the union where you are, you have a better chance. But it's a catch-22, because if you have a body of work, and they want, you are able to send in a tape, they might want to cast you. I think that happened with Stranger Things with Eleven. She was British, and they cast it. It's easier for, I think, younger people, but if you have a body of work and it's reputable, you can still audition and maybe get sponsored by the production. Hard though. Sorry.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've also the other option is become super famous in your country, and then maybe you have fans in the U.S. and can sell those tickets. They'll cast you.
There is a way. I mean, you can get a green card if you invest, but it's quite a lot.
Oh yes, the business investments. Yes.
Yeah, buying property. I think $500,000 or more in the U.S. you can apply for status.
Oh, it's only $500,000. I thought, for some reason, I thought it was like 2 million.
It might be more. It might be more.
I was like, oh my God, I don't know who has that kind of money.
Yeah, no. It's really
probably hard. Not people in the arts. That's who.
No. Maybe if your parents will come with you or has a job.
I mean, yeah, become super really famous, super rich, or just be born into it.
Or have really rich parents.
Yeah. Just be rich. Being rich always helps, right?
Maybe it's easier to go to the other side. Maybe not the UK, but definitely France or Italy.
I mean, we've talked about being rich in a couple streams, and I think the consensus was if you have money, you can do anything. I'm sure if you sponsor a Hollywood movie,
just make your movie.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I'll give you $1 billion for this movie,
right?
But I want this person to be in it and play some role. Then, I mean, the person probably have to be a decent actor too. But if they're a decent actor, there you have it. You work in a Hollywood movie because you sponsored it.
That is definitely another subject, is to be a creator. I mean, we all have that capability. Some are greater than others, and some pursue it more than others. But if you create something that, not to get noticed, but something you love, and it gets traction, then you can basically write your own ticket for a certain amount of time.
Of course, yeah. All right, well, I'm looking at the time now, and we're pretty much out of time. So I apologize to all those whose questions we didn't answer, but I think today we've covered a lot of ground. And Lisa, you're our first talent manager on the stream, so you got all the questions that people had. So thank you so much for answering all of those. Now, is there anything else, any tips for actors, or anything else we haven't mentioned that are some must-know things for actors that you can recommend, or some tips you can give as a closing remark?
I really feel like for actors, I think it's really important to dedicate yourself to the text, to the storytelling. Obviously you really want to focus in on that more than how bad you want something, what you think we want you to do, or what you think we want you to see. But there is like a level of important aspects, like grooming yourself, having good lighting, doing a good tape, having the tech, anything that's distracting, try to veer away from, whether it's bad lighting, big logo, too much makeup, any of that, but really dig into the organic storytelling of what you're trying to portray, and what you're trying to go for, including your voice, whatever it may be. That's what gets you noticed, because when you believe it, when you believe in yourself, when you believe in the storytelling, and you put that first before the ego, we feel that, and it pops, and it's almost hard to explain. It's more of a feeling. Of course, they want you to look nice too, but when you give yourself permission to be a storyteller, and really, really focus on that, we all feel it, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, you know, where you've come from. It just really is important. Um, and I don't know. I mean, it sounds quirky, but that is that is all I could really say is that it's a feeling that you, when you lose yourself in a character and the script, and try to not self-direct while you're doing it, then it gives us permission to go along with you, and that's what stands out the most.
All right, thank you. Lots of great advice today, and thank you again for doing this, and thanks everybody else for
Fun.
watching.
Thanks
Now,
so much.
now those of you watching